See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify, get helpful stats and all the support you need to sound your very best.
This is Jed MacKay, and you're listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast, episode 315, second one for 2023. You are with, of course, your High Priest of KHONSHU, Rebecca. Hello, how are you?
Morning.
Good morning.
Evening.
Yeah, good evening. Rebecca's all discombobulated.
I'm used to it being morning. It's now evening. Good evening.
Very, very nice of you, Rebecca, to burn the midnight oil. But joining us also as well, we have a special guest, Leyna. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great, and
Have you back? Yeah,
it's awesome, and I know that we've been going to and fro online, Leyna, to get you on. Apologise for the late invitation and access. But that's how Uncle Ray rolls, so that's the way it goes.
I'm going to start calling you Uncle Ray now.
Oh, please don't.
I don't know if it's the same ring as High Priest, but sure, we'll roll with it.
Yes, and listeners, for those that aren't tuning in live stream, you would have heard just the voice there of returning creator, and it's great fun having him back, Jed MacKay. Jed, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always great to catch up and see what has been going on for the last 6 months or so.
Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
I feel, Jed, that since we've had the privilege of having you on a few times, I feel that it's just interesting to see the progress. I know you moved. I think when we first spoke, you just moved.
I did, yeah.
So I see your space populating, and I see it.
I've painted my office, and I finally bought bookshelves. Awesome. They finally came back into stock, and I was able to get my books out of the boxes on the floor.
Yes.
And onto bookshelves. So it's really kind of coming together.
It's looking good.
I mean, you're doing better than me. When we moved house, I think it took us 6 months to unpack the books.
It was probably around that mark. Like, we moved almost a year ago now.
And then we found an extra box of books. Like, when I thought I'd lost something, I was like, where is that? And it's like, oh, look, there's some more boxes that we just shoved in a cupboard.
Yeah. So I got my chair there. My dog's having a sleep over there.
Oh, nice. Have we asked the name of your dog, Jed?
It's Juniper.
Juniper.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I've had original art that's been sitting in my closet for years that I finally got up on the wall.
Yes.
So quite good.
Viewers, we're getting an insight. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
Awesome. Nice one. And listeners, of course, we are here for, as I mentioned, a creative chat. Now, last time we had Jed on, it was for the last few issues and kind of like a season in review, but this time we'll be looking at issues 13 to 18, so the most recent arc of Moon Knight, which should be great. I've got to mention as well, of course, if you don't know, shame on you, slap on the face, Jed MacKay, writer of Moon Knight, and the likes of Strange, Mary Jane and Black Cat, Iron Cat, and Timeless, amongst other things as well.
And now Doctor Strange.
And now Doctor Strange. Is that how?
On the way.
Oh, it's on the way.
No, it's the last issue of Strange comes out, I think, next week.
Okay.
And then I think February we've got nothing, and then March Doctor Strange #1 comes out.
Oh, baby, that's good.
So it's just, Strange ending, Doctor Strange starting. It's all the same book.
Sure.
Just, with a different title and a slight shift in narrative focus.
I sort of mention it for people who decide they only buy ones that say Doctor in front of it.
That's right.
I wanted to call Strange Doctor Strange. I think I originally had it called Doctor Strange, and I had Clea calling herself Doctor Strange. because in the first issue of Strange, Doom comes to take the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme, and I was going to have Clea say, it's like, you know, if you call yourself a doctor, I can call myself a doctor too.
Yeah.
And it was extremely sassy, but eventually, like, no, we're just going to call it Strange. We don't want you jumping through hoops to justify this doctor thing. I'm like, no, it's quite easy.
Yeah. Exactly. Doom never had the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
No, don't mess with Doom. So yeah, if you want to hear Jed's other chats as well, it's on episode 241, 267 and 292 for Jed's. This one, Jed, again, in keeping with the theme of the Attack of Jed, I've named it. So Star Wars related.
Extremely aggressive. For sure.
Please don't view Jed as an aggressive person. I'm sure you're not. Just a quick one. As we've seen, we are live streaming. Hello, Mario Digicom. He sends his greetings. But also, geez, I haven't heard from Tommy, the man on the streets, for ages.
That's what happens when we mix up the times we record.
Yeah.
And actually make it accessible to Americans.
Yeah, that's right. I know. So Tommy says, hi, Ray, Rebecca, and Leyna. Jed, thank you for sharing your art with the world. You've put out an impressive portfolio over the past few years. Thank you for contributing to ITK so often. Yeah, Jed, I mean, can't thank you enough.
I mean, to be fair, me putting my own art in the world is how I make money, so it's not entirely altruistic.
Well, that's fair. Look, don't ruin it, Jed. Don't ruin it.
Just take the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, as well, just before we really dive into it, a big thank you to all the patroonies. Thank you so much for contributing and help prop up the show. Particular mention to top tier patroonies. Drew Toombs, Daniel Doing, Frank the Think Tank, and Odin Sword. And of course, CLZ Comics and Dreamland Comics, thank you as well. Yep, so let's shall we dive into it then, I guess?
Let's do it.
What we are going to look at, hopefully this is the right slide, that is, yep, so first issue, Moon Knight 13. So Night Feeders, this is. And so this is right off the back of that kind of finale in issue 12, Jed, and the appearance of Stephen Grant, which kind of got everyone rather happy.
Yeah, old Steve saved the day a bit there.
Yes. And Mark going to some dark places, and
Not a Moon Knight book, surely.
Yeah. Soldier not doing too well there. And Reese being the human or vampiric.
Man, that's going back. It's like, at that point in time, there was some debate as to whether or not Soldier was dead. Yeah, man, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So this also,
I'm writing 23 like today, so
nice.
I'm a little,
wow.
we're talking like 10 issues in the past now.
Yeah,
I know, right? I was thinking like, God, that's a lot. Seems like ages ago, but I mean, I guess 6 issues is a fair whack of time.
Yeah.
Well, because I remember writing 12 at my mother-in-law's place. I think we were there for like Christmas or something.
Oh,
was it for Christmas or like perhaps shortly after? But we were over there, and I had to do some work, so we were writing it in a guest room. But yeah, so I guess it's been about a year since I wrote that issue.
Wow.
Or sorry, 13. Sorry, not 12.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Plus, all
we wanted him vamped though, so that's cool.
Yeah, and all the other things that you're writing at the same time as well, Jed. Jeez, it's it'd be hard pressed to remember it all. But Night Feeders, big moment here. First appearance of the Tutor. We got first appearance of Grand Mal and Nemean as well. So introducing these characters, Jed, which is cool. And yeah, I don't know. Just tell us a little bit about, finding this time in particular. I guess to introduce it. I guess to kick off this whole vampiric kind of arc.
Yeah. So. The whole structure thing was something that it began as kind of like a throwaway gag because I was just looking for things to do in Moon Knight #1. We did a lot of stuff, started with the structure, and then we had the chainsaw zombies, the Frankenstein bikers, vermin, and just like this kind of episodic day in the life kind of stuff. But I thought the idea had legs and was worth getting back at later. And also people seem to really get a chuckle out of this kind of like pyramid scheme cult vampire thing, which as I said in other places, I thought was like a very American way to go about doing vampires, as opposed to having like an old world European hierarchy. Instead, you have something that's like very modern and very new world. Not that it's any better; it still sucks in its own special way. But there's just something kind of got a chuckle out of it because I think like a lot of the Tudor came from these sort of cult. And not just cult, but like very cult, kind of like techie sort of characters, like Keith Raniere from the Nixium cult, and a bit of Steve Jobs in there. And you can see because all the uniform for the structure is like those fleece vests that all the finance and tech bros. I don't know if they still wear them. But they used to wear them a lot as a few years ago. And so yeah, it was something I wanted to come back to. And at that point in time, we're only renewed to a certain extent of time. I'm like, well, we've got 6 issues. This seems like something good we can do in 6 issues. And then we'll move on from that. So,
yeah.
And, it was an opportunity to bring Taskmaster, and I always love Taskmaster.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, kind of synonymous with your run, being able to touch upon points that a lot of Loony fans kind of identify with. So Taskmaster, of course, had that great interaction in the Charlie Houston run. So it's always great to see both of them. Well, I mean, they didn't come head to head, but it's always just great to see Tasky back there, and at least giving his thoughts again, because again, one of those more popular phrases comic book fans know, I think, about Taskmaster is about he doesn't like to fight against Moon Knight. So they've got this special connection because he doesn't like, he's got no defenses.
Yeah, and like I know people, to some extent may have felt cheated by not having the fight, but I mean, it just worked for me in a way that I was like, well, this is how it would go. Like, this is Taskmaster living his truth. This has gone extremely poorly for him in the past. And he knows Moon Knight's not just a guy who would beat him up. He's a guy who would beat him up and throw him off a building into like a wood chipper.
Into his living house.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it felt right to me. And like, I understand people want to fight. That's totally
I think it's sometimes nice to not be expected as well, or not, like we always expect Tasky to fight.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to see like why he wouldn't, and it all makes sense, and it touches back on the older runs, and
and it's like that's not really his purpose in the story anyway, because this is like your new jumping on point. So Taskmaster's purpose here is to big Moon Knight up, and to perhaps a new reader who's like, I'm not going to read these first 12 issues, but I've heard about it, I'm going to pick up this issue 13. They know what they need to know about Moon Knight for the purposes of this story.
Yeah.
Coming from Taskmaster.
Yeah. I love how Sabatini draws Taskmaster. I mean, the face is
He does a great Taskmaster, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's literally like a skull. So that's fantastic.
Like a very gnarly skull.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Very. Yeah. But yeah,
sassy skull.
Sassy, slightly grisly. Leyna, any thoughts on issue 13? I mean, I know you liked it as well.
Yeah, mainly just that I was really happy to see Stephen back at the end of it, and I was excited to see the lead into the issue that I had some input on, number 14.
Yes. Yeah, of course. No, absolutely. And actually, let's move on to that. So, I mean, let's go to 14. I mean, this is a
big moment.
Yeah, a big moment. Jed, I think, from within our community as well, talking with other fellow Moon Knight fans, this was good because it kind of had skirted around throughout the whole series, and we know. I mean, it was from the outset. Issue 1, Dr. Sturman says herself. I'm not focusing on that, but of course, it's a large part of Moon Knight. So it was really good to see it's focused on in this issue. And so for those just called Soldier, Rich Man, a Scoundrel, it was basically, I guess, Mark justifying why up to this point it had been the way it was. Basically him taking front and center. But things have changed from issue 12, and I guess the other alters were questioning that.
Yes, their chance to have a comment on what's been going on.
Yeah. I don't know, Leyna. Maybe your thoughts first. Just how was it? How did you find it? I mean, you had this opportunity to consult with Jed. How did you find that experience?
Yeah, well, by the time Jed sent me the special script for this one, I had already sent several emails back and forth with him and talked to him about DID and told him some of my experiences, and also gave him some links of some good websites to look at, and so when he gave me this partial script of this one, I was really impressed with how well he had written about the DID, because it really rang true to me as far as the storyline and the conversations between the alters, and especially sort of the control dynamic, that sort of the control struggle that went on between Mark and Stephen and Jake rang very true, because with a lot of DID systems, it's very common actually for the part who has the legal name of the system, in this case Mark Spector, kind of want to be in control and want to sort of deny or repress the others, because they're uncomfortable with their diagnosis, and they're uncomfortable with feeling like they're being labeled as crazy and all this stuff. And so sometimes it does kind of require some of the other alters to kind of call them to task and kind of keep them accountable, as far as remembering that they need to share this life with all of us.
Yeah. I mean, Jed, did you find it? I mean, how did you feel going into this story, knowing that this is what you wanted to tell, and it potentially being a quite you have to be quite careful with how you interpret it. Yeah.
I mean, like doing the story, something that hinges so heavily on things like a condition like DID. It's certainly fraught. You look at any portrayal of DID through the history of media, and you can kind of see, that I don't know if struggle is the right word, but sort of the attempts people have made at a story like that, and where often they've fallen very short. And again, this is not me, shitting on other Moon Knight stories or anything. I'm talking about like just full stop, like in all media. So, this is some of the reasons why it took so long to get into the DID stuff, in part because it's just storytelling, where it was something I wanted to hold on to a bit, to get people excited for it, to be people saying, where's Jake, where's Stephen, and holding that back till the next arc, just kind of it made sense narratively, especially as we're building up a situation that there's no explanation as to where Jake and Stephen have gone, or why they haven't been fronting or anything like that. But also in part, it was a story that I wanted to be ready that I could tell, as I don't know if faithfully is the right word, but as carefully as I could. It being something I've had no firsthand experience with, and it being something that affects the lives of a lot of people, and people who are Moon Knight readers, because Moon Knight is like the DID superhero.
Yeah. I was going to say that, because he's like if you had DID, that's the like I first started reading Moon Knight because someone said, "Here, he's Jewish, read it."
Yeah, and that's so
so you want to check it out, see how it's done.
So yeah, like I said, it was something that I wanted to approach as carefully as possible. In the same way that I wanted to approach Mark's Jewish identity as carefully as I could, or talking about Dr. Batter's, religious struggles and things like that, right? Religious and cultural kind of intersections. Speaking with Leyna was great. When she could do a sensitivity read on the script, which was kind of funny because just out of confidentiality, I basically had to redact all the action in these pages with the fight. So it was just like captions, and then just I don't remember if I put X's over them or just like completely deleted them. So the Mindscape pages were intact, but yeah, the fight pages was largely blank except for dialogue.
Yeah, I love the portrayal of the Mindscape, I guess, pages. Again, Rebecca and I, we kind of laud Rochelle Rosenberg's colours and just such great work. Yeah, oh gosh, you must be astounded. Like each time you kind of get proofs back, just going, what the hell is this? You know,
it's amazing stuff. Like, yeah, I'm always very upfront when I'm working on a book, and that I have no eye for color. Where someone will send me pages, and generally I can't really tell good from bad coloring a lot of the times. I don't know why. It's not like I'm colorblind or anything. It's just I just don't have an eye for it. Yeah. But Rochelle's stuff on this book is so like characteristic of it. Like it's such a big part of what this book looks like. That just stands out.
Oh yeah, it certainly has, I guess, established just a definite tone to it than many other titles that I'm reading at the moment. It's great because when you dive into it, you kind of know what you're going to get. You're in this particular world. It's really good.
It's just part of the visual vocabulary of the book,
Yeah. So interspersed with the Mindscape scenes, of course, just a recap for 14. There is a confrontation again between Moon Knight, Grand Mal, and Nemean. So you get a lot of action. I liked, Jed, how you did that, and I think that pattern's kind of followed in subsequent issues as well. Just for those that
I do that a lot.
Oh, do you? Somebody loves their action.
Well, it's because I get bored writing the same scene for a long period of time, and also I worry that other people get bored with it. So I do a lot of cutting back and forth just to keep both myself interested and hopefully the reader.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's good because it allows you to really invest in developing these characters, or really expanding on the story, but then just not have people just talking. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I can't have Alessandro draw 3 people talking for 20 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
First off, Reforge would not have it, and secondly, if it got through, like who wants to draw that book? Especially when you're like, I mean, sure. There's lots of books like that, but they're not called Moon Knight. They're not superhero action books.
Yeah, true. I mean, one of the most poignant things here as well, apart from, I guess, the interaction in the Mindscape, just for those that have the visuals on here, it's where kind of Mr. Knight kind of admits, or Mark admits, about his dependence on Reese to an extent, how he needs to, and this kind of culminates with why he hasn't told her yet about DID, and Leyna, I'm assuming that this sort of thing is, I guess, not uncommon, this feeling about it, and I don't know, the level of shame that some people might have when they're in relationships with others.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very difficult to know who to trust with a secret, because it's something that it's not necessarily a shame. It's more of being afraid of how they'll react, as far as whether or not they will understand or be willing to try to understand. I've had some people that I've told my secret to, and then they've just told me, I don't want you to talk about that part of your life. And so and that's very difficult when that sort of thing happens. So I'm very careful about who I tell, and like talk about it online, but we use pseudonyms and
no, it's great, and I think it's very touching here as well, because Reese has become quite a liked character, Jed. I think it's fair to say. Loved. Okay. I was trying. Loved character. No. Adored.
Bump that up, right?
Yeah. I'm really loving the relationship between her and Mark. You mentioned also, Jed, about like building up to this kind of scenario where the alters are kind of talking to each other. There's also, we haven't lost the fact of original support cast of Moon Knight as well, because that was easy for people to probably at the outset to go, okay, well, what's happening to such and such, Frenchie or Marlene, and I liked how that was touched upon to let us know. But for the most part, again, I think I've mentioned this before, I don't think many people really minded that because of the strength of these support characters that have been built up. So.
Well, except for the guy who tweets me the same demand every couple weeks.
Oh,
but
was it?
I mean, that seems in and of itself fairly mild compared to what some tweets have been.
Yeah, is that
sure?
Is that is that Russell? Jed, is that Russell?
Oh.
Russell, stop it! Okay, stop it.
Yeah, Russell would be like, let's hear
So
what.
Jack's back, Russell.
Yeah.
You can pause for a while.
Yeah, well, I put Man Mountain Marco in a book. Yeah,
exactly, right?
Exactly. Okay. That's it. Yeah, done. But yeah, a great issue here. And we get a little snippet into, I guess it's the lead up. Or have I jumped to? Oh, yeah, the lead up to issue 15. I'm alluding to, to Jake and in the bar. And again, we'll get another introduction to a really interesting character, only slightly introduced. Jed, I'm hoping that she gets fleshed out. But we'll go to issue 15. So
is the bartender?
Yeah, Naomi. Awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize she had followers.
Oh, I don't know. Might be just me, but
yeah.
But no, I think it's I think she's great.
It's just like another one. Hooray!
No, just I don't know.
Are you going to start a podcast for her too, Ray?
I might well.
Don't tempt him.
So issue 15, Moonlighting. So again, we get first appearances, Naomi the barkeep, Big Claude Peters. Jed, why? I got to ask, why the double E? Is it a South African, Dutch origin?
It's Belgian, isn't it?
Belgian. Sorry. Oh, you mentioned it's Belgian. Yeah, yeah.
Because he's Belgian. Lockley keeps calling him French.
Yeah.
Oh, a nice little Poirot.
Yeah. Which I mean, like I know it sounds Dutch. It sounds Dutch to me. I think I just googled Belgian last names.
Yeah. Okay. Murray, Marvel characters have fans. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Every Marvel character, yes.
Absolutely.
That's true. That's true. I mean,
Jed's is 8-ball. We know that. So
we got. I mean, if you've been following me on Twitter, we got some prime 8-ball content coming up.
Yes, we've. It's been noted.
So 15 as well. We're kind of getting a step closer. I mean, so Moon Knight's kind of tracking. The vampires, and we get the first appearance of Naomi and Big Claude Peters, which is also really interesting. But we get a bit more of a background on Nemean and Grand Mal, so a bit more fleshing out as to what their deal is. But of course, as well, going back to some sessions with Dr. Sturman, and in this particular case, following up from issue 14, the reason why. Moon Knight's now asking her, why don't we ever touch upon DID? So I liked how that was kind of approached as well. But Jed, this. Oh, I'm just looking at this, Rebecca. There's the hairstylist as well.
Oh, the famous haircut as well.
Yeah.
People are wild for that. Just banging knife and fork on table.
I just felt really bad that in previous issues we've been like, oh, his hair's looking a bit shaggy now. I'm like, just saying, what am I? And then for it to be like, oh, okay, his hair was looking a bit shaggy.
Wait, there's a point to that.
There is a reason. Yeah.
And of course, the first appearance of Michael, the barber.
Yeah.
Well, I mean. Not wanting to put you in a corner here, Jed. Will we see Michael again? It'll be interesting.
I don't know. See, I like Michael because he's a barber and he was also a Marine, which I find kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's a great mix. Yeah.
Maybe for a holiday,
especially if you're going to be dealing with superheroes' hair.
Yeah, exactly. He knows what needs to be done. One of obviously the big driver for this issue as well is that we get a lot of Jake, which I'm always up for, which is great. Here we get Naomi as well. Jed, fantastic.
There she is.
But we get a bit more on a lead. Basically, it culminates into Chinatown, which will lead into obviously issue 16. But I like the fact that Naomi's brother-in-law Ruben, I guess, is hiding because there's this big big vampiric group led by a tutor who wants to kind of recruit people. The structure. And essentially we know that at the end as well, I guess that's why the tutor didn't like Moon Knight, kind of like a competitor, so to speak, with vampires.
That's the next issue, actually, is where we get that little revelation, a little treat.
Yeah. But I don't know, Jed, any thoughts on issue 15 as to, I don't know, any ideas that sprung up for you that you wanted to use straight away, or anything that you didn't?
15 I liked a lot because it was an opportunity to let Jake and Steven out and actually do something in the book, not just all of them conversing mentally in the previous issue, but getting out and like doing their jobs as they were originally envisioned, way back from Moon Knight #1. So we have Jake is running down leads on the vampires. Steven is running down leads on the assassins. And we just see how they do their jobs through various ways. Jake goes and talks to people in a scummy bar. Steven pays people off at an incredibly expensive bar. Jake's out there pounding the pavement. Steven hires someone to do the job for him. He's like, I have this money. I'm going to hire a researcher. This is how I get things done.
Yeah. That was cool.
That was...
I thought it was just fun to exercise his different voices for for this see the whole system out there doing their thing and doing the work. And what I found fun about it was Jake's out there asking questions about the vampires, Steven's out there asking questions about the assassins, and Mark as Moon Knight is just asking questions to his therapist. So they're all trying to get to the bottom of things in their own way, and their own particular bottom of things.
And at this stage, of course, I mean, after the events of issues 12 to 14, they're a little bit more cohesive now, and we see that. And as you mentioned, Jed, you see the two other alters, Jake and Steven, in action. I really appreciated seeing Steven in action, and dare I say, do something. I don't want to say of worth, but because in the past we've only seen Steven show how rich he is, or then I'm just kind of flashing back.
He does things of use occasionally, but this is it's interesting to give him that kind of track to really sort of join in and
because
but that's kind of a challenge though with Steven is if you go back to older Moon Knight stuff, Steven is the one who's around most of the time. Steven Grant's mansion. True. Marlene almost always talks to Steven.
I mean, obviously he's all behind all the gadgets. And...
But you don't exactly. But you don't see him actually, doing some of the legwork, which is good, which I really loved in this. I mean, apart from as you mentioned in the older runs, and taking nothing away from it, of course. Apart from seeing Steven, purchase artwork or lounge around in his mansion, we do see him at the tail end of a meeting, in front of a boardroom, and then he goes, and it's it's good to actually see him do something that helps everyone else. So really good as well.
The thing is, Steven is very canny as a character. He's as smart and as capable and as intelligent as Mark or Jake. He just has a very different arena. And prior to us digging in with him here, Steven's main purpose was he was the guy who made the money. Without his money, the whole Moon Knight operation wouldn't work. Of course, now we see that money's gone, and they're dealing with a gym bag full of rolled up hundreds that Mark pours out on a table.
That's true.
So, with his purpose no longer being making money, I had to find something for him to do.
Yes.
Because a guy who makes money is not particularly interesting as a comic book hero.
Yeah, true. And
primarily.
Yeah, and I think Mario, exactly, just as Jed touched upon as well, we see that those bags of those rolls of money just appear, which is pretty good.
It's a very Mark Spector thing to turn up with a bag of
no questions.
What shall we say? Cash of indeterminate origin.
Yeah. Leyna, what are your thoughts on issue 15, the one just after?
Well, like you, Ray, I would say too that I really appreciated seeing the alters in action again, and especially I really appreciated seeing Jake get back to his roots as far as how he used to be as a character, as opposed to like in recent years he's been kind of portrayed as extremely violent and chaotic, and like in the Max Bemis run especially, and also in the credit scene of the Disney Plus show. He was kind of portrayed as the most violent one and everything, and me, it actually makes a lot more sense for Mark to be the most violent one of the three, because he's the one that has the history as a mercenary, and
yeah, I mean that's I mean I've said before that's kind of my pole star as far as looking at the relationship of the alters, where Stephen Grant makes money, Jake Lockley makes friends, Mark Spector makes bodies. It's basically a guy in the hot dog suit of like Mark Spector's face saying we're all trying to find the evil alter. It's like, well, actually it's Mark.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, so just
as we see, Mark still has his uses there in that last page.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes you just need to punch someone.
And there's something I find very funny about Jake getting into trouble, then needing Mark to get him out of it.
I think peeling off the mustache was the sheer moment.
I loved it. I mean,
I love the fake mustache.
We all love it.
It's fantastic. There's a scene later on where Reese has to speak to Jake on the phone, and you see Mark take off his mask and then put on the mustache.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. We see a bit more on Soldier as well. So we're getting little bits of Soldier, which reoccur just with his, I guess, allegiance to Mark and why he likes to follow. He gets a sense of stability, of course, having come from Hydra as well, and as well as like Moon Knight saving his life. That doesn't hurt too. But yeah, they edge their way towards. Oh, before I get to that scene as well, so they edge their way towards Chinatown, obviously being the place where it's almost like a refuge from the structure. So Moon Knight is there, going over there to just question whoever that leader is. But before that, of course, we get this also touching moment in issue 15. It's about Mr. Knight, Mark and Reese having it out about the DID and their feelings. And again, in the short amount of space there, Jed, I think it was done really well.
Thank you.
Probably a highlight, for me for this issue.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I really appreciated those scenes. They like I said, it doesn't always go well when you're telling somebody about your DID. So I really appreciated that you showed all accepting him and his diagnosis.
Yeah, and I mean, if any group is going to not have a problem with something like that, it's going to be all these, these folks that came together in the Midnight Mission. Like everyone has got very much their own things to deal with.
Yeah,
and everyone's helping each other kind of deal with it. I'm just gonna take a break for a second. I gotta let my dog out. He's just scratching the door. We're back in a second.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, I mean, just whilst Jed takes care of Juniper, I mean, this scene. I mean, Rebecca, we spoke about it as well. There's an awkwardness
I think
to it.
It's lovely because I think there's always an awkwardness when you're telling someone a secret, especially when if you've been holding back from them.
Yeah.
And and here it's just like, it makes total sense that's how she would react, but it doesn't mean he's not going to still be nervous about. He's probably had many times where he's been bad at judging that.
Yeah.
So, because
it's midnight,
and we all have. I mean, like,
superpower.
Even if you put it to any time that you've trusted someone with something that you've been very sort of only shared with a few people, you're always sort of properly inviting them into your inner circle, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be. So I mean, I think his slight awkwardness, and we know he's not necessarily a touchy-feely guy.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. No, I guess that's the thing I like about it. Just that there's emotions that are just bubbling under the surface, but you know, for all these other reasons, people like Reese and Mark, they find it hard to express, but they get there in the end, and I think that's really good. So.
But then I think we're 15 issues into their relationship now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's come like it's actually come at this really great time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's earned in time as well as how we know the characters. Like you could get to know the characters much quicker, but there's something and we have. But like this is something nice about this being where it sort of comes together.
Yeah.
And that she's fully invited it because she's known that there's been something he's been holding back on. So.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, the thing is too, you know, a large part of my read on a thing that I wrote is, you know, Mark is much older than Reese is, and you know, the younger generation is a lot, at least in my experience, has a lot easier time accepting things like this, whereas Mark, who's of an entirely different generation, would have that generation's totally different response to, you know, talking about his condition. And I think that there's that kind of difference in the way they approach, you know, these secrets and these revelations that I find interesting. I think it's useful fodder for, you know, creating this relationship in a comic book, creating this drama.
Well, I certainly hope that we see, I mean, more and more of Reese as well. Yeah, as
well.
No,
I think I'm just gonna get rid of her though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
That's enough of her. Yeah. So as mentioned in the last panels, we're leading into issue 16, Chinatown. Now, this is another great issue. Jed, we get to learn more about you know, this band of vampires in Chinatown that are kind of detached but have a connection with the structure, which is really interesting. First thing I wanted to kind of ask about it is because Mario, if you're still around, maybe you can help us out. So Lady Yulan is a deep cut, right? Is like a previous character in the Marvel?
No, she's a new character, but her boss.
The boss. Sorry, the boss.
She was the nemesis of Night Raven, which was a Marvel UK character.
Yeah, yes.
That has had
Yang.
Limited publication history, but as a character I like quite a bit, and I've never really been able to find a spot for him.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know, it's just seemed to make sense to link back to that. You know, Yang is, you know, incredibly ancient immortal, an alchemist, and the idea that she would essentially create a vampire hitman to do her dirty work, however many thousand years ago. I can't remember exactly how long it was. You know, she talked about being created in the back half of the Yuan dynasty, but I don't remember exactly what those years were.
I'm just
so that's where that comes from.
Okay, I'm just vibing that actor from Big Trouble in Little China. That's when it was a Yi Yang.
No, that's David Lopan, of course. But
okay.
It's a cut. I like Night Raven a lot. I think he's a really interesting character with an incredible look.
Yep.
And he's very loved. So you know.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, British Marvel persons.
Yeah.
Maybe amongst my friends, but yeah, we like all the Marvel UK lots.
Yes.
It's odd, those guys, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it was very weird for me when the internet came in, sort of finding out everyone's different experiences with sort of growing up with comics, and obviously, like in Britain, we had a very weird sort of relationship with some of the Marvel stuff because we'd always get it out of order.
Yeah.
And then we'd have the Marvel UK stuff, and then we'd have things like Judge Dredd, like running in, you know, just this very different sort of comics childhood, and it was never really obvious to us how different the world did it until there was more sort of interaction with the world.
That's like, it's like anything really.
Yeah.
The first time I went to another country was, I think I was 21.
Yeah.
And then I was like in Korea, and I was like, wow, the world, things are done differently. Like even the sidewalk is different. I'm like, gee whiz.
Yeah, true.
I guess we had that with a lot of mainland Europe, but but for comics, you just think, this is an American thing, and everyone is all the same, and then you suddenly realize how much of it was kind of unique as well.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I went to England a few years ago, I damn, I got run over by a car because people don't stop at crosswalks.
Oh,
I mean, they do sometimes, but generally,
no. Not enough.
And also, we jaywalk as a matter of course.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but in Chinatown, again, I've just left it on here as well. There's a big thing that happens to Hunter's Moon in this issue.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, but again, I just wanted to dwell on the fantastic art that we do get throughout this whole run.
That was the action bit in that issue, right?
Yeah.
Again, you're back and forth action exposition cuts.
Yeah.
But it works.
It does work.
So,
we love a gimmick.
But yes, so we see Lady Yulan. So the tie-in here for, again, just a little reminder for everyone, of course, that it wasn't her, it was one of her brides, right? That the tutor who wanted to kind of create basically the structure and use vampiric kind of evolution as a stepping stone. He turns himself essentially, right, from the bride. And he kind of blackmails Lady Yulan, who is scared of Yi Yang. That if she ever goes after him, he'll dob her in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or dob her in. Sure, grass her up.
It's such an Australian phrase.
Was it? Okay.
The most Australian.
I've never heard that one before.
Oh, okay.
You never watched Neighbours, clearly.
Yeah.
This may surprise you. Neighbours is not huge over here.
Oh,
no.
Thank God. So
how I learnt all my Australian phrases.
I mean, Coronation Street had a following, I think, but
which is crazy. But
as Mario said, everyone's a fan of something somewhere. So
fair enough.
But so this was a great issue. I thought one of the big points, of course, is the death of Hunter's Moon. But we get to see him take on both Grand Mal and Nemean. Which is really cool. But of course, the main
Alexander drawing him incredibly beefy.
Yeah. Oh, he beats up.
Oh, he's awesome.
I think he's getting bigger every issue. It's fantastic.
He is, yeah. On that rooftop there, he's
give me another 10 issues, and it'll be like Godzilla.
Exactly. Yeah, he's loving it. He's loving it. But anyway, so they're here essentially just to chat with Lady Yulan, but Mr. Knight, of course, finds a way to insult her.
To antagonize her, as he tends to.
As he does, yeah.
Making friends, as always.
Oh, he's such a people person. We get a nice little look here on, I guess, one of the true visages of Lady Yulan again. It was something that you described to Alessandro. It was something that he just ran with.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the idea was that she's extremely old and extremely powerful. Given how far back her bloodline extends, she's the first of this particular line of vampires that was then hijacked by the tutor. Alchemically created by Yi Yang, and this idea that it's indicative of the whole thing that she's talking about, where she says the human mind isn't meant to live that long. Once you keep getting older, the less human you become, which again is not particularly a new idea when in regards to vampires. But this idea of her having to keep control over herself, her having to stay involved with humanity in order to achieve an attachment to it without becoming a monster, as she saw Yi Yang had become rather. Not that Yi Yang was a vampire, but she's immortal. And so this is like an outward representation of that, where if she gets pissed off, then her entire form can warp and change, because she's just this extremely powerful expression of vampirism. So yeah, I mean, I think it's talked about just looking gnarly and having maybe teeth coming out the side, and he just ran with it.
Yeah, the teeth or fangs coming out.
Alessandro requires very little direction. He's extremely talented artist.
Yeah.
So I mean, for the most part, I just kind of let him do his thing.
Yeah, for sure. Leyna as well. Any thoughts on this next step? I mean, we're getting one step closer again to the tutor.
I just thought it was really interesting to get a lot of the backstory that we got in this issue and learn more about these vampires in Chinatown that Mark was going to talk to, and yeah, I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and again, so what happens here? Obviously, Hunter's Moon kind of gets ambushed by a whole heap of vampires. As good as he is, he can't take them all on. But so he finally succumbs to it.
I think I'll send that picture of all the raccoons in someone's backyard, and all you can see are their eyes. I think that was my reference for those vampires. Really? I'm not quite sure. I may have just described it, but I think I may have attached that photo.
Well, I hope you didn't have a reference for this one with Hunter's Moon.
Might be.
Yeah, impaled with crowbars and all sorts of construction site tools. Because they've been dancing around on top of buildings and around construction sites. But it's Nemean that kind of finishes it off. The big crack. And this shocked a few loonies as well. It was like, oh god,
I hope so.
Yeah, it was not what they wanted, because Hunter's Moon has become quite well liked as well, especially
I hope so.
During around that Devil's Reign period where Moon Knight's in jail, and we had the Hunter's Moon.
Yeah, that was my favorite issues. That was a number.
Yeah, we wanted the Hunter's Moon issue, and we got one. So
yeah,
a full-on one.
Yeah, but it was amazing how many reviews I saw. There's the book's called Moon Knight. Moon Knight's not even in it. It's like. You ever read comic books before?
Yeah,
exactly. And then on the other side, there's people calling for Hunter's Moon minis and things like that. So
I know. So
you're always gonna get that.
No, I think it was good.
It was quite funny. I think before that issue had come out, I had posted a panel from the annual of Moon Knight and Hunter's Moon driving in a car because I really liked it. I think it was Federico did such great work on that issue. I was really hyped about when he sent me the art. And then almost immediately after, I was like, shit, we're killing Hunter's Moon in this issue. That is not something I need to be showing people, that he and Moon are driving around in a Cadillac shortly afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
So then that prompted me to put another Reese reading order image up there of this the annual happens between issues.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was like, man, I got to really cover my ass on this one. I think I was talking to Federico. I'm like, yeah, if you're posting previews from your annual, don't post any of the Hunter's Moon in it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because he dies. I'm like, yeah, it does make sense, doesn't it? I guess it makes sense if you're not a stupid asshole like myself.
And then we'll get to the annual, of course, as well. Another that was starved of annuals there, Jed. And I spoke to Rebecca last episode. We were kind of having a bit of a giggle. I think the last time we had you on, I think we touched upon annuals, but you kept such a good poker face.
Very coy.
Yeah,
very coy.
It was good. Don't invite Jed to poker. He'll win.
Actually, I'm trying to think if I was. Yeah, no, I would have been working on it by then. So
because I can only assume because it was it was not that long after. But moving on to issue 17 now, home game. Great. I love this cover. So Jed, can I ask as well? Probably a really silly, simple question. Covers, right? They done way before. They're done way before the stories are completed and stuff, or
not necessarily. I think maybe they're done. I mean, I don't really know. Oftentimes, I don't see the cover until it's attached to the PDF that I'm doing the lettering draft in.
Okay.
So I'm not. I mean, the whole cover process is kind of largely outside of anything I'm doing.
Okay. No, yeah. I only ask because this one a bit of a mislead, so to speak. With the man as the lion, it's nothing new in comics. As you kind of say before, and not in particular this one, but it just prompted my memory because previous other titles and series as I follow, the cover doesn't get something wrong, but it's kind of almost as if they had to assume something, and until the story is written, and then it's kind of different. Yeah,
because it also depends what book you work on. Working on books for Brevoort, because every month everyone gets an email saying, "Give me the solicit text for whatever book you're doing. I need cover ideas." So my cover idea was basically Moon Knight fighting with Nemean and Grand Mal.
Right.
And then that's what comes back.
Okay.
However, other books, I basically have no input on the most of my other books. I have no input on the cover and the solicits because it's just what the editors or assistant editors are doing.
Okay. Interesting.
And again, even with Moon Knight, my cover suggestions are largely just suggestions. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not there approving it every step of the way because honestly, I don't have the time for it.
No, for sure. As long as it's totally not outside the realm of what the story entails, I'm sure it's pretty good. So,
I mean, you get these weird communications. There was, what was it? I think Kieran Gillen was talking about an issue of X-Men he wrote where he messed something up. And the artist thought it meant that
the
loin. Yeah, he was wearing a loincloth or a lion cloth. He wrote loincloth.
It was supposed to be a loincloth. He wrote lion cloth, and they drew this whole.
Really?
It's for Cyclops, right? And
yeah. That's what it was.
So the head of the lion is like over the eyes, so it actually works really well.
Yeah.
But,
wow, that's funny. Two letters is all it takes. Far out. Yeah, so, I mean, Home Game was cool. Can I just say, House of Shadows back in action, baby.
And the thing, too, is I think this issue, say at the outset, number 17, I think is Alessandra's, it's a career best for him so far. Because
he's just getting better all the time, which is crazy because it's great anyway. And then, and Sabatini, I think they're both, coming on so much through this Moon Knight run. You can see that both their art just getting better and better.
For sure.
It's really lovely to see.
Yeah, I made the comment last episode, Jed, as well, of although they have two distinct styles, it's seamless when they kind of jump between one and the other in issues, and I think it really helps the series.
I mean, I think a big part of it too is Rochelle coloring them both.
Yes,
that provides a real kind of we're talking about the visual vocabulary, continuity. Talking about the visual vocabulary of a story. Even if the artists are swapping off because it's a lot of work to draw a comic book on a monthly schedule, that coloring serves as a bridge between them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and again, I mean, colors are great here. For those little prompt, Moon Knight drags Nami and Grand Mal after the death of Hunter's Moon to the House of Shadows and lets the House of Shadows take care of them, so to speak. Really cool. There's so many great splash pages in this issue, actually throughout the whole series. But
I think I was counting. I think there's 5 splash pages in this issue. It's absurd. But they all I always have a hard time with splash pages because I'll write 3 lines. I'm like, well, that's my page rate done. But it's also people respond so well to them and. I think it's more exciting for an artist to draw a lot of the times. Yeah. As long as it's not a splash page everyone who's ever been an Avenger is now on this page.
Yeah. 1,000 horses.
Yeah, exactly. Horses wearing leopard skin saddles or some shit like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of splashes this issue, but it stands out as such an artistic high point. I think
absolutely
the greatest since the Hunter's Moon issue.
The Hunter's Moon issue, is that is the same as because the Scarlet stained glass
one,
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking as well. It's amazing. Anyway, so Grand Mal, Namian kind of get their comeuppance in this, and what I've got here. I mean, of course, we get more. Hunter's Moon is back as well. We kind of knew this because, I mean,
come on.
Moon Knight...
You mean you saw him drive around in that car?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And Moon Knight had that done to him. He was resurrected by Dr. Bada too. So it wasn't a total surprise, but it was good to have him back. Oh, God. This one.
I mean, look at
this.
that.
Oh.
God, look, it's amazing.
This asshole.
Just whoever... I think I mentioned whoever gets this or purchases this page, good on you.
See, but the thing is, because Alessandro works mostly digitally. He only does a traditional page here and there, so I'm not sure which pages are traditional and which are done digitally.
Wow. And this,
I mean look at that.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. And what a way to kind of welcome
the light
back.
on both of them is amazing. So.
Yeah, spectacular stuff.
Distinct, colours for both of them. So we do get more now. We actually get to the Vampire Conclave in New York. And this, again, sets it up for what we get in the next issue. Great skylight, chuck them down. Yep. Hopefully they just spasm when they're on the ground a little, and income. This was I mean,
party animals.
Yeah.
Party animals. I want to shout out World of Tigra. I think on Twitter, she loves Tigra, and absolutely loves.
Really, I wouldn't have thought with a name like that.
Yeah,
I know. It's probably it worked out well.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since we've seen Tigra, and I can say that going forward, we have on the books a Tigra centric, like Tigra viewpoint issue. So I think that's I'm very excited about it, and I hope people like it.
Oh,
yeah, I think I'm very excited about it now.
Absolutely.
Apart from my pronunciation of her name.
I got into this with
potato.
Who was I talking to? Oh, I don't remember. We're talking about Tigra, Tigra, et cetera.
Yeah.
Oh, it was on the pull list.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And Tommy as well mentions he'd like to see more House of Shadows. We all would. I would love to see more. I want to see
the Midnight Mission, surely.
Yes, exactly.
Mario always gets it right. Just call it
Grit. Yeah. You can't stuff that one up. That's pretty good.
The Werewoman.
Of the cat people, and the last issue of this arc, issue 18, which came out not long ago. We've reviewed not long ago as well, towards the end of last
2 weeks
year.
ago.
Yeah, December 28th.
Yeah, we've only just got together because
I had a little break.
Yeah. I had my stupid holiday.
Oh, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think 2 weeks ago is not a long time ago.
No, I still think it's funny that you were in London the moment I touched down in Heathrow, and I was like, I'm not going to be running to Forbidden Planet, but
that's a shame. It was a good signing too. I was worried.
They have really good signings there. So.
Well, I didn't realize Thought Bubble was that weekend. So
yeah.
I was like, oh, hey, like everyone I wanted to reach out, like, hey, I'm in England. Let's hang out.
Yeah, and they were like, sorry, Thought Bubble.
Well, that's the thing. So I was like, man, are all the people who like comics going to be in friggin' Harrogate this weekend? Is anyone going to turn up for the signing?
It's but, at least you have behind you that Thought Bubble's a little bit pricey in terms of hotels and getting up to Harrogate, and so there's always going to be some people who can't. I know one guy who can never go because of work schedules, so there's always something. But it was quite funny. I was like, oh look, that's when I get home from Cambodia.
Yeah. It's timing. But yeah, it was good actually. I met up with Mike Dowling, who has done some Black Cat stuff with me. So we went out and had some dinner. It was a good time.
I was about to ask, Jed, is there like a green room that all the creators get together in behind the scenes of...
At a show?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I think. It's just kind of like a little... Usually the place is like some water and some snacks and whatnot.
Someone demands...
The green room is called the bar where we go after the show.
Ah, fair enough. It's nice.
Give each other COVID.
Oh, God.
Sure. Oh, and also, I just got reminded as well, Jed, Rebecca and I were speculating.
No, Ray was speculating.
Rebecca was speculating.
I had nothing in there.
I was speaking to another podcaster, and he mentioned, because he had a chat with you too, Ethan. He mentioned that you're quite tall, so we were having some bets as to how tall you are, Jed. I hope this is not overstepping the mark.
No, it's fine.
I did say,
I'm 6'5".
Oh, see, before you,
which is like what, 100?
Well,
192, 195 centimeters, something like that.
That's the main.
So before you were about to say that, Jed, Rebecca, I want to put it on record now, because we did say 6'2", right, 190, but then Noel had said, he pips you.
He's 6'3",
right, but so I was going to suggest, I'm going to go flat out and say 6'5". But you called it. So awesome. Wow.
I didn't realize you were talking about centimeters there. You're like 6'2", 190. I'm like, oh, I've been 190 since I was 20, but sure. Pounds, not
so what's 6'5" in centimeters? Do you know?
195, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, jeez.
I don't remember. I did the math once, but I can never remember it.
I think Mario said about the 6. I think it's because I said I knew somebody at university who was 6'7".
Yeah,
and like
6'7",
he was like,
I think would be a bit
he
much.
was the tallest person in the Jewish Society, and I was the shortest person in the Jewish Society, and we ended up in this car together going to this other Jewish Society, and it was very weird when they stopped up because they literally said, "Did you send us your tallest and shortest?"
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I don't travel as much. It's just I find it extremely uncomfortable to fit in an airplane.
Yeah. First
unless
class.
Got emergency exit.
Yeah, first class. Just...
We'll see. We'll see how that shakes out.
You have to fly enough to get the bonus points to do that.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So. Yes. And
not that I ever have. But...
I try to get the emergency exit seating.
Yes.
Like flying over to England was a nightmare.
Like I'm always so short that I'm just like, oh, there's leg room issues.
Yeah,
so
this is wonderful.
Well, that's the thing. Like I was flying with my wife, and
seats.
she's not particularly tall, and I was eating my meal like a Tyrannosaurus. So on the way back, we're just like, it's an extra $200 to go to the emergency exit. It's worth it for an 8-hour flight just to not feel like dying by the end of it. Yeah,
God. Well, no, there you go. I mean, Loonies, if you were wondering from Rebecca's speculation last episode, there you go. There you go. Moving on to the last one, as we mentioned, Party Monster. Fantastic. So this is the action. This is where it kind of ramps.
It all comes together.
Yeah.
I think 9 times out of 10, I forget to give these individual issues names.
Oh.
And then one of the assistant editors emailed me like, "What do you call this?" I'm like, "Oh shit, I don't know." I'm like, "This has to go to press. This has to go to press. Like, what is the name of this story?" Like,
I would be terrible at
forgot
that.
to be doing
I'm just like going. I just always think of them as their issue numbers, and then Ray'll come up with the name, and I'll be like, oh, I forgot they have names. Yeah.
I mean, they're not terribly important. They're just a bit of fun.
No, they're good.
No, but they are good for distinguishing which issue we're talking about without always talking numbers. So
exactly, and these both Tigra, Hunter's Moon and Mr. Knight are definitely party monsters here, crashing the party. There's a great exchange here. It's kind of like, what was the adjective that is with the tutor? He was just so sure of himself, and then you have Mr. Knight very sure about what's going to happen. I love the fact that behind the scenes, again, so we get the support cast, Soldier and Reese, helping out Moon Knight. So he's not, he's not a lone wolf. Many people think that Moon Knight is, because he doesn't like, teams. The Avengers is always on the outer, but he does have his network, and it was good to see Soldier and Reese here. I mentioned to Rebecca last episode, Jed, I was just waiting for, because Mr. Knight says, like, he almost cues the sprinklers, and I was just waiting for Soldier to stuff it up somehow, but but no.
I mean, you know what? If I had more pages, maybe we could have done something like that. But
I like him being competent, so I'm fine
exactly,
that,
exactly.
Yeah, it was about time the Soldier had a bit more to him than just the guy who says yes, boss.
Yeah.
I mean, he is very much that guy, but here we see why. And how that's a part of him.
And the umbrella take is awesome kick-ass moment there, Jed.
So good.
Just
another beautiful page.
Just thrown in through the broken skylight, and it catches it, and thump or whoosh. Off it goes.
Actually, thump would have been better in retrospect, but
I think it's worse.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And then the sprinklers happen, and the big moment is, what the hell. What do you think this is doing? I mean, Shooter grabs Mr. Knight, and it's, well, I'm a priest. I'm not a superhero. And so he consecrates the water. Fantastic moment here. Leyna, thoughts on because Rebecca and I did cover it last episode. Thoughts on this final issue?
I really like the part with the Soldier where he describes how Hydra treated him versus how Mark treats him, and kind of highlights the difference between abusive leaders that take advantage of people versus people that are more effective leaders that are people with dignity. I really appreciated that, and then also the whole thing of the holy water sprinklers that kind of took me by surprise. I was kind of halfway expecting Reese to be, Soldier to be picking up some kind of like artificial sunlight or something, but.
That
kind of is so by surprise. I really liked it.
Yeah. I mean, poor vampires. They have so many ways that you can disable them.
Yeah, they're fine.
No. There's always more vampires.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true as well. yeah, some other fine moments here. I love the claw, was it the silver claw caps that Tyra gets to adorn on her claws to really make a mess of things. And Hunter's Moon, who's not 100%, but I love it how he attacks this moment with vigor. I mean, we know he doesn't like vampires, so maybe a bit of a therapeutic,
therapeutic loss.
Yeah, so this is the second time he's been murdered by vampires. Like, he's got some things he needs to work through.
He's got some issues there. But, a fantastic kind of end to it. We don't see it. It's kind of off panel, but the demise of the tutor as well, who kind of backtracks and wants to, look, I can work for you. I can make things happen. He's a weasel. Yeah. So he, I'm assuming, gets decapitated. We had a lot of fun chatting as well, Jed, just about this Renfield-like character, just because of the TV, is it TV show or it's a movie coming out?
Films coming out.
Nick Cage.
The trailer had just released, I think, around when the comic came out, so it was quite funny.
Yeah,
just after maybe.
And again, Sabatini doesn't want to be outdone by Cappuccio, so he chucks in a fair few splashes.
Some great, dramatic splash stuff.
Yeah,
not as chunky as Alessandro's. It's a bit more live.
He has just come back to life.
No, that's true. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
burn those calories.
Maybe it's the diet, the death diet.
Since he got, for sure. But no, fantastic. So such a great roundup, Jed, this arc. Now, again, I'm just kind of lost as to what I can ask, maybe or not. Moving forward, we know we'll get to the annual. Don't worry as well. I haven't forgotten about that. But next cover, Commodore Planet. Oh, sorry, one of the other big things, Plesko, Rebecca Plesko in this.
And Zodiac back.
Yeah, and Zodiac as well. But Plesko was
the bigger.
Yeah, I think there's so much that you can do with this guy, considering his stint in Mark Spector Moon Knight, but just the nature of ex-merc and a psychotherapist. So, very interesting.
Former Shadow Cabinet.
Shadow Cabinet.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Sigmund.
I have a friend who just wants to know anytime the Shadow Cabinet is referenced. So
okay.
I have to be on the ball for it, but he's very excited to hear there was war. So
sorry.
We'll stick around for a couple issues.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And just good to see as well, Zodiac, you can't keep an absolute dickhead down. So he's he's back.
He's such a little shit
in some capacity.
And you'll be sick of the sight of him by next issue, let me tell you.
Yeah. Oh, well, no. Well, I love him. This is great. So that rounded out the arc. I know, Jed, any thoughts on I mean, just I guess personally self-critiquing. How did you find the arc? Was it everything that you wanted to flesh out for this run?
Yeah, on the whole, I think it was it was successful. It did what I wanted to do.
Yep.
It's always tough coming up with the next arc after a big debut arc, like the whole 12 issue Zodiac thing. 12 issues, 12 Sons of Zodiac. Anyways, I would have clever. I should have had each issue have its own Zodiac sign. So yeah, like doing a shorter arc, and your follow up, your sophomore arc is always going to present its own challenges. And I think for the most part, I'm very happy with it. People seem to continue to enjoy the book. I'm assuming the sales are doing well if they're letting us keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some good big punchy moments. Like I love that showdown, the Midnight Mission. The death of Hunter's Moon, I thought hit the way I wanted it to. As far as perhaps regrets or things that could have done better, I don't know. And again, I think this is entirely on me. It's not an artist thing, but I don't know if Mimian and Grand Mal really hit the way they could have.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps going with established supervillains might have been a better move. Hard to say. Okay. I don't think they made as much of a splash, not necessarily as I needed to, but you always like to see your new characters well received, and a lot of that I think is down to how I use them as well.
Yeah,
we don't get a whole lot about them because they're there to be destroyed.
Yeah.
So I wonder if perhaps using Bullseye or something would have been more effective.
Yeah.
I kind of like I like having the sort of new ones, the new names, something to think about. What their like not knowing their powers straight away, how they tied in with the names. I kind of like that, and then obviously you want that, like, you don't care if too much if they die, unless you're Russell, probably. I'm like just guessing on Russell's behalf that, like, you know.
And I know people
die, but you know, like, if you have Bullseye, then you have to think of a way for him to be able to not have died.
Yeah, and I mean they didn't die. They're still alive.
But, you know,
they're quite poorly done by.
I could see them being pulled into other things. So
I
mean,
they're
always,
there.
I think it's always good to shoot for something new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just
and there were comparisons drawn between Nemean and Sabretooth. It's 100% my fault because I didn't realize I was pushing Alessandro in the design in that direction.
Oh, okay.
So that's absolutely me.
Oh no,
but also, I mean, Nemean Lion, Sabretooth. There's going to be some sort of visual, like,
it's fine. It's not keeping me up at night or anything. But if I'm looking back at self critique, those are things that I'm like, well, maybe it's something I could have done a little differently.
Yeah, and just curious as well, Jed, with the process as well. So, during this, like the 13 to the 18, had there been like the green light to go further, or was there a moment where you were at least thinking, oh, okay, do I need to wrap things up, like close things out for this like series? I don't know.
No, I think I started planning this around a year ago. I think so. It would have been about a year ago I started planning this arc.
Yeah,
and at that point in time, said, well, we're approved for 6 more issues. We don't know if there's more coming yet or not. But I mean, with these books, you never do know.
Yeah.
So instead, you say, okay, well, here's my 6 issues. If it comes down to it, we're canceled at 18. I'll have to put another page of them at the midnight mission saying, like, oh, wow, it's all over. And like, well, actually, it feels like a beginning.
Sitting around having their coffee and
the end ... question mark, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Soldier coming in with a tray of coffee.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I didn't know whether we'd be going. I mean, and also I tend to go into these things very optimistically.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Trying to plan for success, but no, like all told, I think as an arc, I was quite happy with it. Because it was an adventure story, and it was Moon Knight versus vampires, which is splashy and fun. But it was also that big thing with Moon Knight in his current iteration coming to terms with his DID.
Yeah.
Because, and again, like I kind of am starting to wonder how many more times I can reference the Age of KHONSHU, given this happened quite a while ago now. But yeah, I think that's kind of like one of the last times I can really do that and say, like, this reason Mark has become very controlling over the body and controlling over the life that they share is because of him, overcompensating or trying to right the ship and pulling the wheel way too hard after this whole Age of KHONSHU thing, which again, was the springboard for this whole run, for this whole new stage of his life.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, that's I mean, just super excited to see where it goes from here. But between some of these issues, I can't remember exactly, Jed. The annual did come out, as you mentioned.
It did.
And
came out after issue 16 because people are like, how is Hunter's Moon alive here when he's dead in the book?
Yeah, because the annual in 17 came out while I was away.
Yes.
They're the ones I had
that's
to come
right.
back and catch up on.
Yeah.
And I got to say, this was such a fun, and this is exactly what annuals should be. So this is Homecoming. It's Sabatini, Federico Sabatini on this with Jed.
Back on it.
And I guess a reintroduction, or such a nice little tip of the hat to Werewolf by Night. You know that old kind of connection between the two. Yeah. And of course, bang, Marlene.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really cool way to, having not seen any of the original support cast. I've assuming, Jed, that an annual was a great way to just be able to do it, like, without kind of disrupting, I guess, the flow of the series.
Generally. I mean, like annuals, I think annuals are really interesting, especially for me, doing this annual is allowing me to do stuff I wanted to do without eating into my pages for a main series, or like eating into my issues, So I have always wanted to check in with Marlene and see how, where things stand now. I have always wanted to do a Werewolf by Night thing because I love calling back the dumb bullshit, and Werewolf by Night is it's right up my alley.
Yeah,
but I can never find a place for it because the demands of the story and demands of keeping momentum just never worked out. So when I was given the annual, I was like, well, this is great. Like, here's 30 more pages that I can just do something entirely independent of the main story, but still do the kind of stuff I wanted to do.
Yeah, no, we get also not. I don't think it has been done since the Bemis run, using Diatress, the character. She's been mentioned before, so that was great. And I guess shaping a little differently Jack Russell and establishing this thing about the King of the Wolves. So now, I mean, we've firmly established the supernatural element, I think, and it was great to use the annual to have the werewolf element to it, and we've got the vampires in Moon Knight's regular series.
Because I was reading old Werewolf by Night. It's a really great series. Like, Jack Russell cannot remember when the fucking moon is full. Like, it's incredible.
I know.
He's like, oh, I've got to pay my rent today. Like, what else happens on rent day? I can't remember. And it's like first night. You're like, ah, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I was reading that, it was really interesting to me because it's been a long time since I read any Werewolf by Night. And, Jack Russell's very young when that series starts.
Yeah.
Like, he's living with his mom in like Malibu as a teenager.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to me to say, okay, well, if we're taking this character, like, from that was because I'm reading his first stuff, and I'm like, well, this is how he was when he started.
Yeah.
How weird was he going to be by the time we check in on it? Because we've seen how weird Moon Knight has become since he first turned up in Werewolf by Night. Mm-hmm. I wanted to turn that around and say, well, how weird has Jack Russell become since we've really checked in
cool
on
concept. Him. Yeah, that's great.
And also just like some fantasy bullshit too, where he's like the king of all wolves.
Yeah.
So wanted him to have a title to contrast with the Fist of Khonshu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good as well. I mean, I think you have written Diatress so well. I reckon Max Bemis would be loving it. I just loved her.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I think she's a great character and a great addition.
Yeah,
yeah. But also, not a character I can bring in all the time. Mm-hmm. But one I was really happy to bring in on this issue.
Yeah. Again, annual's a good opportunity, I guess. Also the fact that Jack Russell, although he is the antagonist here as well, there's always that element that he's not totally kind of bad, and there is some sympathy towards his character and I guess the werewolves in general, and tying it with Khonshu was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things we're kind of messing around with, perhaps the Marvel cosmology, and it's also in a way that may or may not be reliable, because that's another really interesting thing about Werewolf by Night. Is, if memory serves, that was the introduction of the Darkhold. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the first time the Darkhold appeared.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And the Russell family has had a long history with the Darkhold, and that's where you're going to find horrible prophecies, if not the Darkhold. That's one of Jack's claims to fame. He's read the Darkhold and retained his sanity.
Yeah.
And now he's on the path to try to become, this werewolf messiah.
Yeah, no, really great, and just I guess the fearlessness of Diatress, but also coupled with how Jack, he promises he's not really going to hurt her. I think that's great. It just good characterizations of both of them. We get to, I mean, Jed, I think we're coming to the Cadillac scene here.
Yeah, there we are.
There, awesome stuff. Decide to crash it. Why not crash it into that mansion? Where are they? In the cemetery.
That was from that. What was that, like, Marvel anthology series? Was it Marvel Premiere? The latest one. It was because there's a Moon Knight story with Ben Percy and Juan Ferreira.
Marvel Comics Presents.
And Marvel Comics Presents, yeah. And I emailed Juan, who had worked with him on Infinite Fury stuff. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, that car's so sick. Like, what kind of car is it? Send me the wrap. Like, I sent it to Mary so I could bring it back.
Nice.
And so he sent me like a proper, like, when a writer picks out reference, it's like a picture of a car, but it's like halfway behind a fence or something. Yeah. When an artist sends reference, it's like front, sides, top,
wow,
inside.
That's so cool. Yeah, No, it's really good. Good moment here. Hunter's Moon, of course, as well. Looking very much alive. And
what happens between issue 15 and 16? Right?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. That's true.
I saw it on the internet, and therefore it must be true.
Well, actually, no. I mean, we should be looking at Hunter's Moon with a bit of pity, going, the poor bastard doesn't know what's coming. But yeah, Silverware to get rid of. There are two main, I guess, acolytes to Jack Russell. They're the only ones that kind of follow him, but that leaves Hunter's Moon and Moon Knight to face off. Marlene, I forgot to mention, so Marlene does come back.
So Hunter's Moon faces off with Marlene.
No,
I don't know if I like his chances.
That would be good, actually. I would like to see that. I mean, Marlene's pretty good.
Marlene's a tough cookie.
Yeah,
she is. Yeah.
And I just noticed here, so this, because it was mentioned in issue 18 that the Kopesh, Jed, the sword, so that was in this here too as well. Great issue. Jed, any thoughts on, I don't know, just tackling an annual in general, or?
It was interesting because I wanted to do. There's like a whole lot more that I was going to do, like flash forward to what would happen if Jack Russell did kill KHONSHU or something like that. And ultimately, it just didn't work. In part because there's just way too much stuff to put into 30 pages.
Yeah.
But I often get very ambitious when I'm coming up, and then I'll put this in, and then there'll be this storyline, and then the reality kind of sets in. I'm like, well, 30 pages is 50% more than I usually get, but I'm not doing an original graphic novel here, so I need to rein it in. But no, for the most part, I'm very happy with how it turned out.
That was great. Yeah.
I think I would imagine there's probably some mixed reactions to Jack and his actions, but I mean, I stand by it. I think he's a character who's very linked with Moon Knight and very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And as, par for the course for Moon Knight and Moon Knight related character, fucking up is just kind of what happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just think that the play between them and just what you've done to integrate, to build on established themes in Moon Knight is really great, with Werewolf by Night, and now the tying in with KHONSHU. I like the dynamic now of Hunter's Moon, the very much a new character. Now that interaction with Dietrich as well, so from a past run. I think it's just really well put together. Absolutely. One of the highlights, I think, for me, as far as annuals, basically Moon Knight, one and done Moon Knight stories as well. It was just really well told.
Thank you.
I loved how Dietrich basically is the one that stops the fight. It just goes, come on, guys, don't be bloody idiots.
Yeah,
Can we
I mean, I don't know if it came across, but obviously she was in no real danger there.
No.
Like she ginned that up with Hunter's Moon.
Yes, yeah.
But just a line, you can't kill people in front of me, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mark's response is, then step outside.
She's the perfect response, really.
Yeah, exactly. And then I love it. Then at the end, they're talking about, I mean, after, obviously there's some stuff there between Marlene and Mark, but then just, let's go get ice cream with with everyone.
Yeah.
So really, really good. Just mindful of the time, Jed, but
Yep.
So thank you.
Oh, I will just have one anecdote here for the end.
Yeah, for sure.
That, where he's like, "Oh, I can give all this up," and Marlene's like, "Well, no, you can't." Federico had actually turn his first layouts and with the mask off in that section.
Oh. And
he's like, "Well, it's for for this important section. I would assume he'd have his mask off." I'm like, "Well, no, actually, he has to have his mask on because that shows that if he says he's like, oh, I can give this up." But he's wearing a mask while he's doing this. Obviously he can't give this up. He's still wearing his mask. Like, he can't take his mask off in front of this woman. Which, I quite liked as a little bit of acting, but not incredibly subtle. But again, they're superhero comics, so
no, it's great. No, it's good. It does. I mean, it does read like that, and it would be important, I think, to have that. So. Fantastic issue. Before we go, of course, a huge thank you, Jed, for your time. I hope the Loonies have enjoyed it. Thanks to all the Loonies for live commenting as well. My particular favourite is Mario getting the exact 195.58 centimeters. There you go, Jed.
Always pulling out the facts.
You got to remember that one. Before we go, just a few questions across our platforms. Rebecca, have you got the prompt sheet with you, or?
I do.
Okay. Shall we just chop and change, or?
Yeah, I'll
Leyna
start
as well.
Sorry,
as well.
Yeah.
Would you have it?
Yeah, I actually did have it. Well, I have a comment and a question real quick. My comment is that I just want to tell you again, Jed, that I really appreciate you having a desire to get the ID right and because there's too many writers that don't really care about how they portray mental illness in general, or especially DID, and I really appreciate you trying to get that right and trying to portray it more accurately and more positively.
Oh, thank you. And again, thank you for helping with that.
Yeah.
It's, as I said before, it's something I have, I have no knowledge about. I have no background in it, and wouldn't be able to. And again, like I always hesitate to say that I'm portraying something realistically or accurately, but instead generally trying to be, more realistic or more accurate than I would otherwise be acting from a state of pure ignorance. So no, I really appreciate your help in that respect, and I'm glad that it has hopefully worked for you.
Yeah, awesome. Rebecca, do you want to kick off, or should I?
Yeah, first question is from Mario. I think we can probably guess this one.
Mm-hmm.
Is your Moon Knight run open-ended, or do you have a specific endpoint in mind?
It is, like I said before, we're basically given certain amounts of runway to cover. I'm not at liberty to speak to how much we have.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best we can say is, just keep an eye on the solicits. They kind of keep things going on. But as it stands, I believe the book is selling pretty well, and we've got some pretty exciting stuff coming up in the future. As far just not just the main series, but just there's all kinds of Moon Knight stuff coming down the pipe. I think he's a character.
So we should be start saving as well. The money away.
Well, I think he's a character who's really having a bit of a renaissance. And again, like it's all down to the TV show, of course, and the hype around that. And the reason there's a new Moon Knight series is because there's a TV show.
But your series has definitely
it's
helped
now one
that
of the
renaissance.
Runs,
So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good series. Don't get me wrong. But I think having that added attention from a TV show has been very helpful in getting new people interested in it. And as it stands, I think things are going quite well. I don't see any reason that I need to be worrying about an ending anytime soon, or at least I hope not. I don't get to see the numbers. I just kind of, can gauge by them saying, here's we want more stuff.
Do a few more issues. Yeah.
Well, he's been appearing all over the place. He had a Black, White, and Blood series. He was in that
Damage Control,
Jody Hauser one. Damage Control.
I was going to raise it when you were talking about covers that were a little bit deceptive, but I think.
He had lines. He had lines. He's in Murder World Moon Knight, which even I don't know what that's going to look like.
Can't wait.
Well, I just read the first two issues, so I'd have an understanding of what was going on. And I was pleasantly surprised. I'm looking forward to the Moon Knight one.
Yeah, it's. Having read Murder World Spider-Man, I don't think it's going to be what people were expecting.
No, I think it's going to be really, really unexpected. When I sort of opened up Murder World Avengers, I was like, this wasn't what I was expecting, but I'm loving it. So I'm really psyched for the Moon Knight issue now. And obviously there's a lot of speculation that we won't get in with you that we talked about last issue about where he could show up next.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so we're still plugged away. And like I said, keep your eye on the solicits. We've got some exciting stuff coming up. As I mentioned before, we've got our Tigra Viewpoint issue coming up at a certain point.
Awesome.
We're going to have a focus on Reese as well. Tomorrow we've got a new issue we're starting off.
I know, right? I was speaking this in right
before we are. That's right. Yeah.
Because this actually, I think, was issue 17. I think the solicit said a terrifying new truth about the Fists of KHONSHU or something. I didn't actually have time to put in that book or space.
Oh.
So that actually is in issue 19.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
So yeah, we're learning some new
tomorrow,
KHONSHU lore tomorrow. as well as some shenanigans. Then we get to then you know, one of my favorite things is Zodiac talking about things and being a dick. So
let's see Zodiac and 8-Ball together. I think that would be.
I don't, because then I don't feel 8-Ball would get out of it.
Yeah, you want to talk about your abusive relationships.
Yeah,
although maybe
probably not a good
Moon Knight
mix.
would come and separate them, and that would be the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick question here from Noel, friend of the show, co-host. How will Howard the Duck cross over with Doctor Strange again? Again, Noel, host of Trapped in the World, Howard the Duck podcast.
You know, that's a good question. Howard the Duck, he's a character I really liked when I was a kid because my dad had a bunch of his issues, and it was unlike anything else that you'd read in a comic book. You know, like the Rutabaga Man or like the Winky Man and stuff like that. Like it was so bizarre. And I was a kid, like, because when you're a kid, you expect to be like Donald Duck. It's not like Donald Duck.
No.
He's just like dancing around and smoking a cigar and like being mad at everybody.
Yeah.
Which I guess is actually a lot like Donald Duck, but an entirely, you know, in a very kind of very 70s kind of way. So yeah, Howard Duck, he's a character I've always kind of got on my mind a little bit. So I mean, like, who knows? You know, Tiger was a character I always had on my mind a little bit, like to find a spot for, and eventually got to put in Moon Knight. So
never say never, Noel. Never say never.
Exactly.
So I've got a question from Jensen. It's at Comic Jensen. Which characters would you love to see interact with Moon Knight in the future? Probably going to be hard for you to answer.
Howard?
Yeah, see, I can't really say that because if they're characters I'd love to see interact with in the future, I'd put it in a book.
That's right. Yeah.
You have that advantage. Yeah.
I'm not really sure how I can answer that without saying.
True.
Because either I'll be like, yeah, this character will be in a book, or I can talk about it because I refuse to put it in a book. So
it's kind of dangerous to trade. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm afraid that one's a bit of a
Jensen, you will have to tell us which characters you'd like to see interact with, and then we can tick off if any of them appear.
Yeah, let's get the discussion happening. We've got the next one from Fi, at Lady Fi, and they do mention something, it's not a question, but they were talking about, Jed, because of your cross-referencing. Let me just read it. In other interviews, Jed's mentioned how useful it would be to cross-reference multiple categories in the Marvel Wiki. Like, do you know about multi-category search? And they admit this is...
You know what? I think they did send me something about that in my email, and I forgot to email them back to say thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I did say, Lady like PHI.
Yes, Lady PHI.
Yes. Yeah, no, they did email. I'm really bad at getting back emails, especially if they're not business related. Right. So because I'm like, I should send a thank you, and then I'll forget about it as I get like, here's these pages, here's these colors. So yes, I did get that email you sent me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Very nice, and very, very nice and considerate as well. They do also have a question though. In what ways, if any, do you adjust how you write issue scripts for Cappuccio versus Sabatini to work with their strengths? Well, that's quite a interesting question.
I mean, I generally don't. I think part of it is that my scripts are perhaps a bit on the sparse side in a lot of ways, in that I tend not to direct too much of the specifics, given that these artists are much better than I am at it, and I want to give them as much latitude to do what they want to do in the way that they think is best or most interesting. So generally I don't make much difference in the scripts I write for Alessandro and the scripts I write for Federico, because both, they're both very accomplished artists in their own right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, excuse me. Like there are things that, the biggest difference would be perhaps if I know one artist is drawing an issue, I'll put certain characters they draw very well in. I really love Federico's Tigra, whereas I really love Alessandro's Hunter's Moon, that kind of thing. And also sometimes I don't really know who's drawing which issue because I just am not aware of who's on the schedule. So I just like, I need the script, off we go.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Good insight.
Then we're just one final question, which I see Ray has lined me up for.
Oh, I have
we'll
not.
talk about that separately. Charlotte Fitton at the Avenged Char is how I would pronounce that. Will we get to see more of Stephen and Jake in your run, and maybe even more explanation of them as a system? Exploration, not explanation. Maybe a better backstory into how the system formed, rather than the problematic one used with the Nazi pretending to be a rabbi. Which is a personal opinion. So, like,
Yes.
not everyone thinks it's problematic. Some people do. I'm not discussing that issue ever. Just so if we take the first bit of the question, we see more of Stephen and Jake and more of the system as a whole.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely see more Stephen and Jake. It's something I think about a lot because I was like, well, I've got Moon Knight, building a supporting cast, and then we get Stephen and Jake coming back. I'm like, wait, that just means my supporting cast got even bigger, with the added difficulty of if Stephen and Jake are around, that means Moon Knight is generally not, because Moon Knight is generally Mark Spector's obsession, which creates difficulties because. I really like Stephen and Jake, but the book is called Moon Knight. And generally we need to see a guy in a white costume go around beating the piss out of people. That said, I do have a lot of ideas for what I'd like to do with these characters. We got, if anything, I feel like perhaps poor Stephen suffers a bit just because I like Jake so much. But I think that there's interesting work to be done with Stephen, especially, Mark is rebuilding his life. Jake is a pretty chill guy, but this is a far cry from Grand Manor. And I think that there's work to be done in how Stephen feels about all of this. Because this current Moon Knight existence is a far cry from, an opulent, romantic lifestyle that Stephen Grant used to live. So perhaps we'll see something along those lines.
That'd be cool.
And further exploration of them as a system. I mean, I don't know how much more there is to explore outside, just each of their feelings in the things that they do and the lives that they lead, together. So, I think just generally seeing more of these characters is how I would express that. And, the whole origin of his DID thing. I mean, I just don't think it's really anything I'm going to get into, because I just don't really see any point or profit to it. I know something that's often controversial to people, and I just don't feel like there's anything there for me to dig into. It's a story that's already.
I feel like I feel like there has to be a reason if you want to retcon one that's already been put in. However individuals feel about it.
I mean, the thing is,
you'd have to have a very strong reason to sort of change that.
And I mean, the thing is too, like, my job is not to go and fix a character. Like, I'm not really not interested in going back and fixing a character, because I just don't think it's very useful, and I don't think it tends not to go very well in a lot of cases. Like when I was writing Black Cat, there was that story that had her origin based around sexual assault in college.
Yeah, that's being talked about a lot on Twitter at the moment, outside of comics. So,
which is not something I liked. I didn't think it was a good origin for the character, especially not with the tone that I wanted to use in that book. But I didn't feel the need to go back and fix it. I just didn't just ignore it. You just leave it.
Yeah, no, that's
because
fair.
Again, if these aren't real people, it doesn't matter. You can just forget stuff that's
exactly.
not useful to you.
You just put it aside. No, for sure.
So
thank you everyone who sent some feedback in. It's always great to be able to chat with Jed and to be able to hear your thoughts as well. Leyna, before we kind of wrap up, any final words you'd like to mention or say to Jed?
Well, actually, I had a question. If it's all right. I know it's kind of late already, but about the beginning of the annual, where that scene where Jake is talking to Marlene, and then Mark comes out, and maybe it's just me over analyzing this. I tend to do that, but
Sure.
There's like this panel where he's kind of like letting out this grunt, and I was kind of wondering what that grunt was all about.
In part, it's there's that sort of discussion of this idea of a headache coming when we're talking about switching.
Yeah.
And in part, it's just we're seeing Mark's of reassert his control. So it's not something explicitly called out as that particular headache associated with switching. It's just more of kind of a nod to that idea.
Yeah, that was one of the things I kind of wondered, is speculated about. Maybe that might be it, because that actually makes a lot of sense, because that is something that happens quite a bit, especially when there's some resistance to the switch. And in that case, it was clear that Jake didn't really want to Mark out, so there would be some resistance there.
But also, you have a certain amount of Mark not wanting to come out either. Given that this is something that's affecting him very deeply in a way that it wouldn't necessarily affect Jake or Steve.
Yeah.
Which, as again, we see him put the mask right on as soon as he's back, or I guess he's back in front, or whatever.
Yeah. No, cool. So once again, Jed, a huge thank you. Before we go, anything you'd like to plug? I know that you have gazillion titles and issues to plug, but
I mean, we got Moon Knight number 1 now. Moon Knight number 19 is coming out tomorrow. Black Cat Mary Jane number 2 is coming out tomorrow. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We have the Ladies Loot Limbo, and I believe next week is the last issue of Strange. It's gonna be Strange number 10. We see Clea Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, and Stephen Strange, the Harvestman, face off with the Sentry.
Yes.
So some real shenanigans going on there. And then in March we have Doctor Strange number 1. Excuse me. That's all I got going on at the moment, I think.
No worries. We'll put those all in the show notes, of course. So Loonies, check it out if you haven't checked out those titles already. Just Jed, quickly, we've got another one. Great friend of the show, CMK. Did anyone else ask about the possible introduction of a cat for the Midnight Mission? Yes, Jed.
Something we discussed in the last podcast, which you probably
I think the Midnight Mission just keep eating them.
We'll get another cat. It's gone again.
Yeah.
Get another cat.
I think they have to keep getting more cats that just look exactly the same, so Soldier can't figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be Soldier's job.
Yes.
Soldier would be the one who would be heartbroken if he understood.
Well, I would hope they would all be devastated, but yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, I mean, realistically speaking, I've got enough characters in that building to keep track of it.
That's fair enough.
A lot of craziness within that as well. Next phase, Loonies, thanks once again. Just keep your eyes out for episode 316. As you probably know, Rebecca and I, we've done 2 quickfire episodes just to try to sneak in, and of course Jed's time as well, but to try and sneak it in before issue 11. Sorry, not 11. It's the 11th I'm thinking of. Before issue 19 is released on the 11th. Just like to shout out as well a big thank you once again to all the patroonies listed there. Thank you so much, Odin, Daniel, Drew, Frank, Justin, Derek, Wayne, Josh, James, Anthony, Russell, Mario, Jonathan, and Dan. And you can become a Patreon member too on patreon.com/ITKMoonKnight. Pardon me. Also as well, you can contact us. Just drop us a line. Feedback at itkmoonlight.com. We've got a website as well, and we're still on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube too. And just touch base, and we do have live streams every now and again, such as these, and they're fun to do, and we get to splash up visuals, which is an added bonus as well. Finally, we are part of the collective, so some great shows there. Rebecca, you've been busy recording other shows too.
I have. I've been catching up properly on all of them, and I think I'm going to do another Iron Fist one this Friday as well.
Lovely.
So lots of Iron Fist.
Check out Sons of the Dragon, Mortal Iron Fist podcast from Rebecca's, as well as DCAU, DC Animated Universe podcast too. Thank you, Chris. You are amazing too as well. Chris, awesome dude. Chris as well. It's links in the show note. Chris is the one responsible for the videos, the intros.
Thank you for adding the extra.
Yes,
this run. The cover for this run.
Got Jed's in there as well. So yes, once again, Jed, a huge thank you for all your time. I always say, look, it's going to be about an hour, but my God, I'm sorry. It's just all.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I know you would tell me anytime that you need to just go, just let us know. And yeah. But
we'll get together. Probably another 6 months.
Yeah. Yes.
Now we'll see you at issue 24.
Mm-hmm. And maybe
24.
Any more art,
24.
any more artwork acquisitions that you may gather, Jed, on
Yeah.
your wall?
We'll
Be
see
good.
what happens.
Yeah.
See how it changes.
Yeah, I've been going to shows, so I'm playing it pretty clear.
Yeah.
Pretty safe these days.
And Leyna, a huge thank you as well for coming on and for
Thank you
giving us your insights as well.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to come on.
No, absolutely. It's great fun to have you on. As always, everybody, take care and may KHONSHU watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.